Welcome to Midday Repartee. I am Rotten Glory. I am joined today by the colorist of Xenotype. How you doing, Scotsman?
Oh, so good, man. I got a good night's sleep last night, so
Oh,
I'm
that's
perky
always nice.
like a little
Yeah,
girl.
I've been in such scramble mode this past week with work and trying to keep up on doing the shows and of course drinking too much on certain nights for live streams. Man, I haven't. I don't think I've had a really solid good night's sleep for a week, and I'm too old for that shit, man. I'm just
I
getting
hear
too
you.
old for it.
Once you get to the point where you don't see any value in being wrecked for an entire day,
Yeah,
you tend to like change your behavior.
you do, and it's like I used to be able. Look, I could pull an all nighter, or maybe just get 2 or 3 hours sleep, and I could absorb that the next day. And now it's just like I'm just gonna lose it. Like I can't make up ground that way anymore with
Right.
work. Like I can't just say like I'll just make it up by staying up all night. It's like no, you're just gonna have to make up that sleep. Your body's not gonna let you do that shit anymore. So
And
it's
there's
weird
really
adjusting to it because that's how I used to do things.
and there's really no such thing as making up sleep.
No,
Once
there
it's
isn't.
gone, it's fucking gone. You
Um,
know, you just have to lose a day. You don't get to make it up.
yeah. So just to let people know that are here, I'm gonna try something a little bit different today with the show. I'm gonna we're gonna kind of lay down the discussion, the topic up front for a little while, maybe 15 minutes or so, before we open it up for people to come in. I'm gonna see how that plays out, just based on some feedback and trying different things with the show. You know,
Yeah.
this open format thing's completely new to me, so I'm just gonna see, try some different things, see what works the best. So
Right on, man.
today, I want to talk about, art is this massively driving force behind culture. It really steers culture in so
Mm.
many ways, and if we look back in a historical context on past civilizations, I think a lot of what we learn about a society in the past is we learn through the art that they left behind, through
Hmm.
their visual art, their literature, even the architecture. This is all created by artistic minds, by creatives, and it really does define what a culture is. And that's why I find it, I don't think this is anything new, but artists are seriously gatekept, and that's in comic books, that's in film, that's in music, in every medium ever. Artists are kept on a short leash. They're always trying to control artists, to leverage them to deliver the message that they want. And because we know that most of the people pulling the strings at the upper end, they really can't create. So they need the artist, they need the creative, but they want the creative to do what they want them to do. So there's an instant, obvious conflict there all the time.
Well, yeah, I mean, really, if you think about it, I mean, art is history. Art is a visual record of history. It's a visual record of what was popular at the time, how people dressed. You look at some of the fine art that's generated all throughout the ages. You get to see how people dressed. You get to see how people stood, conducted themselves. You know, some art is subjective in that way, where maybe it's an interpretation of that, but you know there's so much hidden within art that sometimes artists will hide messages. They'll be saying a certain thing, but you and I particularly, we make our livings as graphic designers, and graphic design has been used as a weapon, for weapons of war, for shaping public opinion, for propaganda. All the art that was created around World War II, leading up to World War One, getting war machines going, getting people on board with concepts and ideas, to mobilize them all in the same direction. That is all through art. Look at some of the Russian propaganda art, you know,
Oh
pertaining
yeah,
to
big time. I mean,
Lenin.
and of course you've got Germany, that this whole that couldn't have been more art
Yeah.
driven. It was created this. The imagery is so powerful, and they were leveraging film as well, and
Hmm.
it's yeah. There's no doubt the power of art is off the charts, and it's no
Right.
wonder that we live in a society where if if you go to your parent as a young person and say I want to be an artist, I'm super, that's where my passion is, and parents just kind of groan because they know that's going to be a very tough road, because while the artists have all this power and they're needed in every way, for some reason it's incredibly difficult to succeed and actually make a very strong living as an artist. I how do you explain that contradiction? Other than
Well, I mean,
it's being gate kept. It's being hardcore gate kept, you know?
well, I think, I mean, honestly, it goes back to economics, right? I mean, the work product of artists is not essential. It doesn't put food in your mouth. You know what I mean? Like, it's not, you can't eat art. I mean, unless it's baking or whatever. But
Mm.
like, I'm talking more like visual stuff rather than, obviously someone who's a culinary artist, somebody who makes pastries and decorates them nicely. Yeah, you're making something that's edible. But as far as the work product is concerned, like comic books, do you need a comic book in order to survive? No. Do you need gasoline? Well, maybe. So, people who work in the oil and gas industry have a chance to make the most money. You produce a work product that's essential for people to conduct their lives. Your potential for profit is much higher. Because all money is an expression of somebody's life energy being poured into another vessel. How much effort did it take to create a thing, and then how much currency are you willing to exchange for that thing is the representative value of their time. So money is quite literally time. So as an artist, your investment in time is so subjective based on what people see it as value, what value people see it with, right?
Yes.
You know, that's why building a fan base and having people who are not just interested in your output, what your art looks like, but start to get invested in you. That's where the potential for being financially strong and getting the most out of your time to produce that art really has its greatest potential.
Yeah, yeah. I guess, like, to better frame it, it's a little bit tricky to frame this topic, but let's say you're an artist in the time when the only way you were really going to make any kind of real money or dollars producing art was depicting scenes, let's say like biblical scenes, right? Like, was that during the Renaissance kind of period? It's like,
A
so if you
classic
wanted to,
master.
I guess what I'm saying is like it's gate kept in the sense that where the real money is, where you can make the profit, the real dollars, is always going to be, well, you have to do this particular thing because that's the messaging that we want to push right now. And I think this has been going on from the very get go for hundreds and hundreds of years.
Would you call that gatekeeping? You really call that gatekeeping? I call that
I
the
kind
market,
of
man.
do, because I call it, yeah, you could just say that's just natural demand of the marketplace, but who it's always seems to, there's a wealth level, right? There's the people at the top, I would say the elite, if you want to call it that, and this may be a little conspiratorial, I guess, but it's really not. I mean, it's not a complex conspiracy that the people with the most dollars, the most wealth, the most assets in a society kind of dictate how that money gets spent, how that wealth gets dispersed, and they're going to be the ones saying, well, this is the messaging that we want. So if you're an artist, we need you to make this kind of art. And isn't that what's going on in Hollywood right now? If you want to succeed
I think it's
right
certain.
now, what kind of films do you have to make? What kind of messaging does your film have to include? You see what I'm saying?
Oh, okay. So we're talking about different things then. Okay, so if you're talking about movies and music making, things like that, I can see where when you have a contract with a large corporation to produce a film or to produce an album, the lyrical content of that album or the subject matter of that film would be dictated by whoever's bankrolling the project. Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, but weren't isn't it? I mean, if you maybe you wanted to paint, some abstract thing, or maybe you had an inspiration to paint certain subject matter,
Hmm.
like peasants in the, working in a field or something. But the only way you could really make money is if you went and painted what a wealthy guy wanted you to paint. I mean, is it any different?
Oh, it's massively different. You're talking about the market at work. There is no market for a painting of peasants in a field unless you have a fan base that loves your art style. So I don't think that's gatekeeping. I think that's again demand, right? So if you
Well,
want
it
to make,
depends on who was paying the art. Was it organizations paying the artists back in the day, or individuals? I think a lot of it came down to, was it the church that was commissioning artists, and that's where you had to go to get the money? It's like I would have to do more research on that topic, but I
well,
do feel like it's something that's been going on
from what I've
for a
learned from
long
art
time.
history, I mean, because I mean, obviously, I had to take a couple art history classes. Um, a lot of old masterful pieces of art were commissioned by very wealthy people, lords, um, very wealthy landowners, you know, the church, kings, that kind of shit. That's where artists made a good portion of their money. I mean, you hire Michelangelo to carve out a statue of David, and it's going to take him 2 years. You know what I'm saying? To pull that out, yeah, there's some high dollar it's going to be paid for that commission, and
Yeah,
that's all he's going to do for this next couple of years. Paint the Sistine Chapel. Well, the church is paying for his room and board and whatever sum that they agreed upon. That's going to consume his life until he's done.
yeah,
So, as artists, again, I go back to the market. That's where I see it. And this is what, to loop it back to Comicsgate, this is one of the reasons why Comicsgate is so interesting, is that it is as close to the heartbeat pulse of a market as you can get. You're not working for DC and Marvel where their politics are driving, um, you know, whatever story you're having to write or uh, whatever art you're drawing that for the script you were given, based on the corporate idea or whatever their direction is, wherever they're trying to steer the story to win the points that they want to win for whatever cultural movement they're trying to cozy up to. Now the individual creator meets at the marketplace with fans and consumers right there on the street.
yeah,
We've got our wares out there for people to look at,
yeah,
and they get to make an instant decision with no one in between but Indiegogo.
yeah.
That's it.
No, that's
You collect the revenue.
there's a tremendous power in that. The internet has changed the game tremendously, and also just technologies that make producing something more affordable. Like producing a comic book is very obviously very realistic for an individual to achieve, and it almost makes me wonder if, when a particular medium becomes impossible to gatekeep, such as comics,
Mhm.
are they is there an intentional drive by corporations to make sure that the readership of comics is so low that they're so not a part of mainstream pop culture in a way that it limits the amount of reach that people who make their own comics can have? Because the moves that we see, like Marvel making, they're so asinine. They seem so counterproductive and destructive to their own medium that it almost feels like it has to be intentional. Because you can't gatekeep comics. You can't do it anymore.
There's an interesting I could say thought experiment we could do with it. I mean, really, once you get to a certain size as a corporation, you now have fuck me money, right? So freezing out competition by intentionally tanking a market, by making decisions that are illogical,
Hmm.
selling something at a loss to completely destroy your competition, that is a corporate strategy, and that happens. When it comes to serving your political interests for your, I guess, your belief system beyond that of profit, and that to the point where it becomes illogical, that's another strategy too. But that speaks to maybe they see value in some kind of generational thing that they're building brand loyalty with up and coming people because they're assuming that's how people think.
Right. Yeah. There are a
So
lot of factors at play for sure. I mean, I just like, it just seems to me that, if you want to reach the pinnacle of success normally, you have to work with the largest company who is going to control you the most. Whether it's in video games, music, film, and comic books up until recently. But things have shifted so much with technology and the internet that it's becoming more difficult to gatekeep certain mediums. And comic
yeah,
books is on the top of that list. Like people have brought up before, where Gamergate failed, Comicsgate is succeeding specifically because we can produce our own product in a way that it's difficult to do with video games because the cost of doing so is so much larger. So I don't know.
yeah,
I feel like there's there's so much power in artists and what the messages that they can convey in ways, these incredible ways that artists are always going to be gatekept, but it's becoming more difficult to do so. And it feels like, well, if we can't control this medium by and large, then let's just kill it. You know what I mean?
maybe. And this might be inflammatory, but it's kind of good for artists to kind of be reined in from time to time, because I know a lot of artists that are completely narcissistic. They're so up their own ass that they don't wield power very well. You know what I mean? And that's
Yeah.
any human being is like that, I guess. Once they get big enough, but I don't know, staying grounded and understanding what your responsibilities are once you have a large reach. That's something that many people don't do well. That's one of the reasons why you see these spectacular falls from big YouTubers, and they make one fuck up, or they drop an N-bomb out in the wild, and it gets broadcast everywhere. You know what I mean? You see people just light themselves on fire, and then they double down and double down and double down, and before you know it, they're gone, or it's gone the other way, completely hated. You may have a small core fan base that likes them, but it's something that I think this is just human nature we're talking about here. Artists are just one part of that.
Yeah. Smiling Bandito, welcome to the show.
Hey.
Oh, hey, Hale.
How you doing?
Very well. I just need to. Sorry, I got double audio going on here. Okay, we're good.
You just mute your browser tab.
Yeah, I did.
So how do you feel about the, artists just continuously gatekept, and is there a possibility that comic books as a medium, because it's so difficult to gatekeep, is it being intentionally brought down?
Well, I don't think gatekeeping is restricted just to artists. I think people tend to try and gatekeep everything to whatever their best interests are. So, and the artist group is as susceptible to that as anything. But I think what typically happens is every occupation you go into, every type of thing you need to achieve requires an education. And if you're an artist, we tend to put so much time into our creativity and whatever interests we specifically have with our creativity, that it tends to exclude marketing, business sense, those types of things. And those are all educations onto themselves. And when we look at who was genuinely successful in the past, I mean, if you want to consider someone like, I don't know, like Leonardo da Vinci. Leonardo da Vinci is known to have been, you know, that original Renaissance man, where he knew a little bit about everything. He knew a great deal about a few things, and he was always pushing himself to be ahead of those around him. And when you consider his success, it was specifically because he was going out to the royalty and using all of his connections to say, hey, I need work, I need a job, you know, put me in charge of this in your castle, and I will bring success to whatever thing. And that's why he was trying to design war machines, right? It was his resume that he was going to.
Yeah, okay. I think that kind of, you're almost kind of proving my point a little.
Okay.
You see what I mean? Just in the sense that in order for him to make the money he needed to maybe do some things he wanted to do, irregardless, he had to go to the most wealthy people, and he had to give them a reason that he would benefit them. And if this was making war machines for them, which probably wasn't his primary interest as a creative, maybe it was, maybe it wasn't, but I'm just saying he had to bend the knee to the interest of a wealthy elite to get what he wanted out of it. And I think that's always been going on, and it always will go on.
Well, at that
Man,
time,
we believe totally opposite right now. I'm so on the other side of this than you.
No, I love that.
And
I'm just kicking out thoughts here, you know.
Oh, yeah.
It's a discussion.
No, I hate you now, Rod. We're not friends anymore.
All right. Now we're getting somewhere. Where's the crowd?
Where's the crowd? This is how you get the crowd.
He was practicing economics. He was identifying a market.
Yeah.
And using his creative abilities and time and energies to fill a need and make money.
And so it just happened to be that this brilliant person who could have been working on anything, he was given prioritized making war machines was as a primary task in order to make the bucks. So
well, let's say
you don't
into the
find
family,
that like that's a little odd.
Let's say he didn't pursue creative interests. We know him for those things, right?
Yeah.
But let's just say he followed his family business and he was a barrel maker. I mean, he would have been the best barrel maker anywhere just because of the type of person that he was. And when you look at all the people who we know are successful, I mean, we do know that a certain amount of their interest has propelled them into the business that they went into, like Bill Gates. You know, they were a bunch of kids that were interested in computers. But it was their ability to identify what to do with their interests that allowed them to be successful. And the reality is, it doesn't matter what you are doing in life if you can't market it to, you know, people who are either like-minded, or even if you do that, you need to be able to market it at a price range that you can profit from, right? It's not enough just to simply say, hey, I got this cool idea, let me get notice for it. You know, there's tons of people who have, you look at Tesla, right? He did not have good business sense. This was a guy who could not market himself right. He signed really poor contracts with people around him. And, you know, he did not receive a compensation reflective of the genius of what he had. So,
well, Elon's an alien. He's from Mars.
Yeah, or a supervillain. I mean, like the guy.
One of the two.
Yeah, one of the two. And but you know, you look at this guy who he was able to sell a computer program when he was 17, was it, or 18? And I
The
remember,
PayPal business model or a
yeah,
transactional
it,
algorithm. Yeah, him
it
and Peter
was,
Thiel did that, I believe.
yeah. And so, I mean, like, here's this 18-year-old kid who was buying a Ferrari. Um, and it was this typical nerd. He looked exactly like a kid who sat next to me in class. And I'm just looking at this kid beside me and just like, there's no way he's going to get that supermodel and the car in his driveway. And
now when you tell people to learn to code, that you get banned on Twitter.
I know, right? It's crazy.
Well, looking at someone like Elon Musk, I mean, let's go back to the the inspiration for the name of his car company, right?
Nikola Tesla.
Mm-hmm.
So here's a guy who obviously outshone his competitors when it came to his innovations, his inventions, his ability to create things that may have been able to make the world a better place, right? But the things he was presenting and offering up could not be controlled, could not be easily controlled and made profitable for the right people. So
Well,
he lost that fight, right?
not couldn't. Tesla wanted to give it away for free.
Exactly.
And this is one of the reasons why I will never bank with J.P. Morgan Chase, because J.P. Morgan was his benefactor. When he found out that the Wardenclyffe Tower was a project to try to proof of concept that you can transmit power wirelessly and you can make it, there's free energy all over the world, and you didn't want to monetize it, he pulled his funding and sent him into obscurity. JP Morgan is one of the reasons why we don't have an advanced society.
So that's, I mean, I think this is all interwoven. It's all interconnected because the creatives like that are working on that level, they're going to be controlled. And the best way to do that is start young through the education system, through the messaging that young people are given that if you want to make real money, you've got to go work for these institutions or corporations. Like that should be your in-game goal. And once you're in those positions, they are going to make sure that you're only creating what they can maximize for profit, that can be controlled. So it's like, I feel like it's a huge gatekeeping
well, that's another
structure, and it's always been present.
The education system is not designed to make people think or teach people how to think. It's to teach you how to not think, how to be productive, obedient citizens. It's not to teach you.
It's meant to teach you what to think.
Exactly. It's meant to curb your creativity, get you plugged into a career path, and become a tax revenue generating node, not a thought generating node. You know, critical thinking is a dying art, and governments and society don't want people thinking critically, because when you do, you end up with people who disobey, who want to fight you, who don't want to absorb the narrative of what just happened or what the government wants you to think. Because
why do you want to fight, Scotsman? Why?
But see, that's the thing. That's where a lot of creative energy comes. People thinking critically, right? Using what's in here, and what's in here in tandem to disbelieve what you're given at face value, right? Use your energies that come from inside to create something new. Don't just be an iteration of something that's come before you. You know what I mean? And the education system does not teach that. There are a few shining stars, a few teachers out there who tell you, no, question authority, think for yourself, use what's inside. Right. Develop.
But that seems to be becoming more and more rare. I mean, I don't know a whole lot about it, but what I've heard and learned about what goes on in the classrooms today, it makes me happy that I missed it, that I got out of it. It's not like it was great when I was in, but it just feels like it's gotten much worse. And that level, they don't want to attract. Why do you think again, talk about a gatekept profession? Why do teachers make so little? You're not going to draw brilliant teachers when there's no money in it. right? When the money isn't there for that. So it just all feeds into itself, I think, and ultimately they want art to be something that can overall, by and large, be controlled by the right people, and great lengths are taken to achieve that. And I don't. When I look at the state of comics right now and how easy it is for an independent creator like Ethan Van Sciver to go on his own and achieve huge success, it's like, okay, they're looking at that going, we can't gatekeep this anymore. We can't do it. So the only option we have is to ensure that his readership is kept at a level that we feel okay with. Now he's selling to what, 7,000-8,000 people, right? That's his readership.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at his total backer count, maybe it's 10,000, but that's nothing, right? As long as you don't reach millions of people, they can't let an independent artist creator reach millions of people. That has to be shut down, is what I'm saying.
What about
Well,
PewDiePie?
let's take it back a step because
look what happened to him in recent years.
But
He got
he's
smacked
able
down,
to,
didn't he?
He's able to overcome
That
it
was
somehow.
a failed attempt, though.
It
That
was.
just a
Overcome it.
feeble.
It was. Sorry.
And I would classify
Hail Gargoyle. Sorry. That,
Yeah,
Hail,
gargoyle.
gentlemen. It's okay.
Yes.
It's okay. I came in the middle when you guys were in a tangent, so
I would
You know how that
classify what
is.
PewDiePie does as art. It's
Of course it
entertainment.
is.
It's absolutely
Yeah.
art entertainment. He's
Agreed.
reacting to things. He's created different bits. Obviously he streams some video games from time to time, but the way he looks at the world, the way he talks about shit, it's entertaining. It is an art, and he's reaching millions of people, millions and millions of people.
Agreed.
So,
well, honestly, what's the difference between him and Gene Wilder back in the 70s and 80s?
what's the difference?
Yeah, if people could tell me now what did PewDiePie do worse than Gene Wilder could ever do in the 70s or 80s, then I'd understand that he's offensive, but I don't see anything offensive that he's ever done in his career.
No, he hasn't done anything offensive, but he's
You're okay. I was trying to really grasping to figure out what thread you
But the
grabbed out
thing-
of the air on that one. Okay,
the thing we
you
have
were bringing
to-
up
I just wanna inject-
PewDiePie. I was
Got
just
it.
I just want to inject
that
this really
sabotage of them trying to do. I'm sorry.
real quickly.
I'm high.
I'm-
I took 2 massive dabs.
I just want to interject real quickly when it comes to PewDiePie. Is like, yes, he reaches millions of people. He's up over 100 million subs or whatever, right? But that's on one of the most gate-kept platforms in existence, right? In terms of censorship, he's on YouTube. He knows exactly those boundaries. He can't talk about things that maybe he would like to. Maybe he has a lot of stuff that he would like to share with his millions upon millions of viewers, but he knows damn well that he cannot do that. So he is YouTube in and of itself. The reason Google runs YouTube at a loss and doesn't care about making a profit, because it gives them a measure of control over video content in the world.
well, it's also marketing, right? It's mind share. I mean, you and I deal with that all the time.
Yes.
Right? How effective is a point of purchase retail setup that you're going to deploy into a chain of grocery stores or big box retailer? How effective is that? Well, you're trying to penetrate somebody's mind in 2 to 3 seconds to get them to exchange currency for the thing that's sitting on that display. So
Right.
it's the same idea, right? YouTube is constantly marketing. Facebook gives away shit for free. Why? Because they get your data. Where does this person go? This person goes here, he goes there, he goes here, he goes there. We know where they travel. We know what stores they go to. We hear their conversations and we put ads in their feed, which is really creepy and I wish would stop.
Yeah, dude.
You know what I mean? You
Yeah,
start talking
that's
about
insane.
camping equipment, all of a sudden fucking you get things in your Facebook feed just like, oh, tents. Oh shit, fucking gas grills. What? I didn't search for that. It happens.
Yeah, it's insane, dude. What are these things? The echoes and the
They're always listening.
Alexa shit. Like people act surprised when they hear like, what? It's been recording my conversations. It's like, what are you talking? This is a device that has to be able to hear you at any time when you give it a command. and then you're
Yeah.
surprised that it's listening. What the fuck is wrong with you?
Or you press yes
well,
to.
Hold on, let's get
to the
testifying here
locations.
real quick, and then say goodbye. That was fun. He brings shit to the table. You know what I'm saying? He comes on here and he's got the attention span of a peanut, and he's bored by everything.
I think you really had a point today, though.
He did. This was probably the most impact he's made on a show that I've seen.
So poignant.
Well,
Gargoyle.
Just to bring it back to what we're kind of talking about with the gatekeeping. I think, first of all, with gatekeeping, people need to realize that the majority of gatekeeping only works if you believe it works. So you take Ethan Van Sciver, for example. He figured out that being in the mainstream was not going to be working for him anymore. And it was this come to God moment that pushed him to move past the gatekeeping.
Yeah.
But
in a way, he's still being
realized.
Isn't he still being? It's still gatekeeping in a sense, because he went. How many? If he was working on one of the major titles, and comic readership is really abysmal, but still he could be reaching 60 to 100,000 readers, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if he was doing that, he would have to be saying what he was told to say in his art. He'd have to be making the art that they dictate for him to make.
For sure.
So, yes, he can go off and do his own thing and be hugely successful, but his mind share, his reach is severely
But
reduced.
is that because of the gatekeeping, or is that because DC has 80 years of marketing in order to have created that fan base?
What's the difference?
Well, if you give Ethan Van Sciver 80 years of creating a fan base, do you think it is going to be less or more than what DC?
But he can't have 80 unless he would
better
have to
question.
construct his own corporation and have it go on, and then by the time it got to that level, it would probably be warped into the very thing.
What merit did Zoe Quinn earn last year to get her job for those Batman and Superman contracts for DC? When
For sure,
she made a man
the gates
committed
are simply open.
suicide, and she robbed fans of crowdfunders of $80,000 to go on a huge vacation in Japan. Is that correct?
It's something like that. It's insanity. So
Anyway,
testify.
we're really
you
bad
got
at,
something to drop on this conversation?
Yeah, we're really bad at welcoming people into your stream. Hail, testify.
I think he's about 2.5 classes in.
Nice. I wish I was there. Can't do it today.
Huh?
Not today?
When am I?
I didn't even know Testify drank. Do you drink?
Why do we do anything?
Oh dear.
For the love and adoration of those
Oh,
around us.
Why do I
feel
let you in here
I
is the
feel
best
like I
question.
took about 90 sleeping pills.
I should
God.
probably call someone at this point then, I would think.
We're now watching paint dry and it peel at the same time.
I know, it's horribly boring. Thanks for your contribution. Holy Jesus. Every day, man. This guy. Unreal.
That's
I
why we
love the
do what we
commentary.
do.
He comes onto the stream just to tell me how fucking bored he is. That's great. Perfect.
Well, as long as he sticks around.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, so where were we? Jesus.
Well,
This has been nothing but a tangent show. I kind of like those though. I think they're kind of fun.
You have a subject to go on tangents about, especially to a lot of new creators. It's
Yeah.
educational.
Yeah.
Well, just there was a discussion that I'd heard the other day where and this is something that all of the Comicsgate creators are going through. Get these books out faster. Why do they take so
Cheaper.
long?
Faster
Why
and
does it
cheaper.
take so long? Well, I mean, think about it. I mean, if you There's so many steps in the process to make a comic book. An individual creator with a small team, there's a reason why it takes almost a year per book. There's a reason. You know, and people say like, well, you need to have the whip cracked on you. Well, at the same time, like, if you look at the quality of the pages that are being developed, the quality of the art, you know, look at the average mainstream comic book. The interiors are shit. There's a figure
God.
and like a couple scratch marks in the as the background.
There's so many things that get phoned in.
They're completely phoned in. Or you look at, like, compared to one of Ethan's pages. He takes 2.5, 3 days, sometimes 4 days for a page. Look at how many lines are on that page. How much detail. He draws with the smallest micron that they make. You know what I mean? So it takes time. So if a book is 48 pages and it takes you 3 to 5 days per page to draw it, now add that, multiply that out. Now add how long it takes to ink it. Well, in Ethan's case, he inks while he draws. Now give that to the colorist. Now give that to the letterist. You know what I'm saying? Then send it to the printer. Do the pre-press.
Yeah, for
Send it to
certain.
the printer. Receive them back from your printing service. Hopefully, they didn't get caught in customs or a pandemic. Now pack, wrap, and stick them all in there. Now organize all the labeling, get all the orders to the post office. Thousands of pounds of books, all being done by one guy. Just, you know,
it's insanity. Yeah, I've
know that your product is
always
made.
When it comes to supporting Comicsgate creators and projects, I take the approach of back it and forget it. I don't even think about it unless it becomes obvious and clear that shenanigans are afoot and somebody has misused their funds or they're not going to deliver. Then I take an interest. But until then, if it's a year later and I get that shit in the mail, it's just a happy day. Great. I'm really happy that I was a part of bringing this into the world, that I could contribute to it. Now I get to enjoy it. I don't have the impatience or the expectation of it getting here on any kind of quick timeline. I don't for me, I just don't understand that really. But
well, it's just the dirty secret in the mainstream industry that there's really more artists behind a comic book than what's really credited
Absolutely.
for.
I can tell you 100%.
Speaking of artists, hail passion for drawing.
hail.
Hail passion.
You want to talk
I
about
love your
workforce?
big giant titties.
Tune into this guy's Twitch stream from time to time. You'll get to see how the fudge is packed.
Oh, nice. Cool.
Damn.
What
Damn,
is it just passion for drawing? Is that how we find you on Twitch?
Yes, just what you see there. The stream is like watching paint drying and shipping. Is that the right reading?
Yeah, that's
I'm fucking wrong.
that's how I actually, when I was talking behind the scenes to get people to join me and be my I was like, we're basically, we want it to be like watching paint dry. That was my sales pitch.
I'm messing around with you, man. What's up, guys? What's up?
What's up, man?
No, it's why I was watching as I was working on my comic book here right now. So I'm up.
I'm coloring as well.
I'm up inking. I still have a bunch of coloring. Yeah, if you're a one-man show, like basically you're doing almost everything, it's pretty difficult. I thought I could get this done in like 5 months. It's looking more like 6 to 7, and that's with me doing everything. And it takes a lot of work. You got someone like Zach, who's the writer, but he can delegate all the other work to other people. It can go faster. He can pump out books every month now because that's what he's going for. But he has the money and he has the resources to be able to get all these people. All you got to do is be good at wrangling people. So people come to Zach. If Zach were to call me tomorrow and say, hey, I want you to draw something, I would draw something for him.
Right.
He has that allure now. He can get whatever talent he wants. So it's a little easier for him. But someone like me, for example, where this is my first comic book, but it's my second book in Comicsgate. It's my first time I've ever done a long-term sequential work. Okay, I do full pieces and stuff. It's the first time. It's taken me it's taken me longer than I thought. It's a different mindset. And you gotta ink it, then I'm coloring it.
Yeah.
And I would never say to fans or consumers, don't hold our feet to the fire, don't press us on it, don't ask what the update is. Be discerning. You're voting with your dollars. I would say this. I would say it's good that you're that passionate about getting these things in your hand. It means you want it.
Yes.
You're excited.
Very good point. Yeah.
There's nothing more important to me as a creator than to have somebody thirsting for my work, not just because they paid for it already, not because they put money into the pot and they want it in their hands, but because they actually wanted to read it. They want to experience it. There's no greater honor that a creator should be able to feel than to have that exchange with fans and consumers. It really is important, you know?
Yeah.
I agree with that. It's definitely, I'm like, when's the book? I think it's also up to the creators to keep putting out regular updates.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't mean a paragraph or two on your Indiegogo. You need to show some work done. You need to show some kind of progress. And I noticed the more progress I showed on my IGG, the more people actually back my book.
And the more grace you'll get when it takes longer.
Yes, because they know it's coming. It's coming. So I wish I could show everything about the book and let everybody know, hey, here it is. Here's
you don't want to spoil
I can't
anything.
spoil it. So
Yeah.
kind
And
of stuck.
Speaking to what you're going through and realizing, look, this is going to take longer than I expected, and you're kind of learning how to get into a different mindset in terms of producing this much sequential art. And it's like, for me, as someone who may invest into a creator in Comicsgate or any independent project, I feel like I actually think you're helping someone get better at their craft, giving them the opportunity to learn what it really takes to produce a comic like this. And the next time you do it, you're going to have a better understanding of how long it will take you. You're going to get more efficient at it. You're going to realize maybe I don't have to do all of this in the back. Maybe I could minimize a little bit on certain things and then go all out on this one particular page. You have to find, I've worked with artists and produced comics in the past, and every artist has, if you're on, especially on tight deadlines, you have to get to a place where you're like, okay, I have to be efficient on this sequence, and I'll put everything into this particular thing because it's a really key part of the story. You have to find ways to reduce that time. It's tough.
And I would actually, you got to take it a step further. What are you actually doing when you give those updates? It's about you connecting with your audience. I mean, you can put out the artwork and they can be excited about that. But ultimately, and Stan Lee was genius for tapping into this, the fans want to know who the creators are. That's why the bullpen became such a popular, part of the comic book. And you look at Ethan, who was, he was significantly late with Cyberfrog. How did he keep his fan base? By connecting with them, right? It had nothing to do with the artwork. I wouldn't say nothing. I would say it had less to do with the artwork than it did his show was entertaining. And when he was connecting with his fans, people were like, hey, you know what? I want to be around for when this comes to fruition. I want to be around when this actually hits the printing press and can actually come out. They wanted to be a part of his success because of how he was connecting with them, right? And that's ultimately what you're doing with your updates. So,
Passion, I'll just say I backed you because of your interview with Kwanzaa Jeffo. That was pretty epic.
Okay.
Nice.
When you were on War Campaign and Terry was doing Kwanzaa and Ro was getting into a conversation with you and going, yeah, who gives a shit?
Yeah, that was an interesting one, let me say the least.
But you know what? So Ro gets it.
Thank you though for your backing. I appreciate it.
Scotsman, I gotta just say real quick, you are successfully recruiting people into your sauerkraut cult.
Crowd cult.
Yeah, it's working, dude.
I'm telling you.
Sorry about that.
Call it crazy crowd cult.
It'll change your life.
Okay, Smiling Bandito. Sorry for the interruption there.
No, that's all right. I'll keep talking until you interrupt me. So just jump in when you got something. But I was just going to say that Ro gets it. Like the thing about a show is that it's not about the comic, it's not about the artwork, it's not about whose project is coming up or what's on Indiegogo. The show is about telling one really good joke. And as soon as you can tell that one good joke, you have the audience engaged, right? As soon as they laugh with you, it's just like trying to woo a girl. You might not be the most handsome out there, but if you can make her laugh, she's going to talk to you. And the thing about who's on the show is they're the punchline. Whoever the guest is on the show, they're the punchline.
And you're talking about War Campaign right now, right?
War Campaign.
Just to clarify. Okay.
Yeah. And so, and you see it with Ethan too, because every now and then you get one of these guys who comes on. Micah Curtis is the poster child for this, who just kind of rambles on without any change in, like, without moderating or modulating his voice or coming to a point. And Ethan's like, Micah, I'm trying to run a show here.
Yeah.
And that's because Ethan knows, like, if the guest has to be the punchline, the guest is the reason the people are going to be entertained, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And that's why I don't necessarily think it works all that well when Ro comes on to EVS's channel or vice versa, because they're not used to being the punchline.
Exactly,
character.
the role is
so
flipped,
it doesn't work.
right? Yeah.
That's the angle I always go by with them, though. When I'm on there, I've always trolled them, always had a good time, kind of bringing it back to them.
Yeah.
It kind of puts Ro on a back foot, and maybe sometimes it makes me look like a dick, but I'm usually only on there to mess with them or have a good time or whatever we're gonna do. We're all in on the joke. They get it.
100%.
And, a lot of times they're willing to. If I'm going to sit there and rip on Ro, or we go back and forth, goofing off, or whatever happens, it's all usually part of the plan. So they know that. That's why they bring me on there, because they know I control them pretty hard, and we all have a good time.
Yeah.
Hail to the Blue Muppet. Hail George.
George.
How you doing?
Don't show us your eye, please.
Smiling Bandito, I need you on the show all the time. You're much better than me at getting people introduced into the show.
Really? Hey, passion for drawing? Rod, passion for drawing. There you go. Done.
Did you have something you wanted to throw out there, George?
Yeah, I'm getting tired of being a punchline, and every time I go on somebody's stream, it's like they look at my Blue Muppet and they say, "Oh yeah, there's George. Okay, let's get our fists ready."
Brother,
punching bag.
Brother,
No,
I have to
that's
tell you,
not
brother.
happening.
George, brother, it is your place in life to be the punchline.
It's a blessing to find one station.
Like the famous villain from Avengers, I don't even know who you are.
True. The one thing that's caught my ear, I was doing the dishes as we speak. Yes, I actually have to do the dishes. I heard about the artists being censored, banned, gatekept, and all that stuff. The interesting thing is, from my perspective, the reason why the artist is always the go-to for censorship, it is because it's the rawest or the raw form of communication, from cave paintings to now.
Yeah,
it is the one communication that can be conveyed without words, sound, anything. You just look at it, and you get a message.
It's worth 1,000 words.
That's right. And if an artist can project, convey all sorts of emotions, all sorts of information to such a rapid degree that it goes beyond anything that's the censorship or the gatekeepers can control.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, one illustration from Passion, in terms of detail and action, conveys more story in that illustration than, say, one illustration from me, where my art is simple, and the lines are simple, but there's a message still. The point is there's still a message going out from these two extremes.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm really glad I mean, I think you brought us back onto the topic. We've been going off all over the place, but you brought it back into focus. And I agree with you that, and it's impossible to gatekeep and silence all the artists in the world. But what you can do is try to limit their reach and try to make the positions where they're going to be controlled the most desirable. Make those corporate spots the most desirable in terms of pay or maybe celebrity and fame. You make those the most desirable, so then you have the best artists in a position where you can control their output. And that's what I'm kind of driving at with, artists are so intensely gatekept, and it's always been that way.
Yeah, well, for an example, back when communists took over Russia and China, one of the first groups that they went ahead and got rid of was artists.
Yeah,
they were part of the first group with some scientists and
artists and scientists.
Yeah, artists and scientists. Those were the first two groups that they purged, that they got rid of, because they knew that artists are also cultural gatekeepers as well. They will show you. You can go back and look at famous artists, and a lot of them you will see it's a snapshot in time of what was going on maybe at the time, or especially in the culture or the art. You look at the Sistine Chapel, that's what was going on then. Where you look at Andy Warhol during the 60s and 70s, pop art was a thing. It's a snapshot into that culture, and they want to it helps them destroy previous culture if you get rid of those artists.
Right.
Especially in Russia. I mean, Russia, if you see pre-communist Russia art, like right around World War I, it's very dark. It's very grim. It's beautiful art, but they purged all those people. They killed most of them off.
Yeah, there was a story that. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, there was a story that the Nazis entered Belgium and took all these paintings from this successful painter, Edgar N., who had all these cool surreal paintings. Fucking burned them. Turned out that was the father of Macallan, the writer of Neverending Story.
Oh shit!
Well, and Nazi Germany, they were going through and specifically purging culture everywhere that they went. So that was
cultures, not their own. Certain cultures.
Well, even their own, they harvested and manipulated. That they controlled specifically to control the schooling. And the minds of kids that were growing up. They pushed certain ideologies and destroyed others in order to, mold their minds into what they were requiring. So,
well, the interesting thing is, while we're focused on art and the good message, there's also art in the oppressive message. A statue of Stalin, that's an oppressive message. Anything out of communist China, submit, rule, all that stuff. The Germans used art to such a high degree, it was ridiculous. Everywhere exactly. They went, and there was the Art Deco Heil salute, Heil salute.
Yeah.
Sorry, Heil salute.
Yeah,
all that.
And
stuff.
you can
art.
can bet.
They were using it.
Yeah, of course, and you can bet that if you want probably the highest paid artists in a regime like that, making that kind of content for a government message, they're getting a lot of benefits for doing that. It's made very desirable to use your talents in that way. And it's so infuriating to think what could exist in the world if that wasn't the way of things. But things
Well,
just they kind of always follow this pattern, and it's always been that way. And you just kind of have to wonder. There's probably method in the madness a little bit.
You should start worrying.
Give me a moment, because I think this is going to blow your minds.
Mm-hmm.
What took down the Soviet Union in the mid '80s? Right, everyone heard that Reagan was doing Star Wars, all these space gantries, missiles and lasers and all that stuff. They did nothing of the sort. All they did was hire a very talented artist from Lucasfilm, and he did all the animation, the propaganda animation. It caused the Soviet Union to spend unheard of billions of dollars, which eventually led to the collapse of their economy, which led to eventually bringing down the wall.
Well, some of the
that is fascinating, actually. Go ahead.
I'm just spitballing the whole thing.
Yeah.
Well, George, I would actually. There's some historians who say actually Chernobyl is what really bankrupted Russia, because that was such a massive cleanup effort. I mean, it was like over half the army was involved.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
What if that's happening right now? Like we're repeating a Chernobyl incident, literally.
Well, I think what's happening, a big warning for a society that's going the sideways is how they treat artists. If they start shutting them up or canceling them, is what we're doing now. An artist can't express, or they fear that they can express themselves. Like, you don't see comedians really anymore. They're it's either older comedians, but there's not a whole new ones because they're so scared to really go out there and say stuff. A new comedian can't do like what Dave Chappelle did recently. A new comedian couldn't do that. They would get ripped to shreds. But Dave Chappelle already has station, you know what I mean? So it's hindering. New artists have a tougher time really expressing themselves because they put something on Twitter like, "Oh, that girl, where's her internal organs?" And you get dogpiled because you did a nice picture. That's harder.
So a lot of that stuff, though, is only because of the immediate situation. So I think that a new comedian actually right now, if they came out with a bit that was as funny as Dave Chappelle's and as controversial as Dave Chappelle ended up being, I think a new comedian could actually build a immediate career off of something like that.
You're talking independently.
I think,
of course,
well,
that's not what we're looking
there.
at. Does anyone here, are you familiar with Owen Benjamin?
Yep.
Prime example.
Well,
this is a guy
not
who
just
wouldn't
Owen
been
Benjamin, but Adam Hunter.
Yeah. So there are people out there that refuse to bend the knee once they realize where it was going. And
But
they
Owen
take a
got
stand
beat.
on certain topics. I'm not saying you have to agree with everything Owen Benjamin puts out there, but he has proven that you can build a successful presence outside of mainstream because he's black. He can't do comedy anywhere except in barns and fucking, wherever someone will let him do it. And it's like, it can be done. But again, if you want that Netflix special where you're going to get millions of dollars or however much they're paying these guys, you better be on point with the messaging they want, more or less.
But that isn't necessarily gatekeeping, because
how is that not gatekeeping?
Because everyone has a right to protect their own brand. So I'm not going to bring an artist onto my project.
That's just another, to me as an artist, it's another form of censorship. If you don't have to work with people, yes, everybody has that right to do that. But if everybody colludes in corporations and things to not let a specific person in, that's censorship. Okay, if one idea is not allowed into the culture, and if the gatekeepers of our culture right now are corporations, IP holders, that kind of stuff, that is censorship in the contract of our society. There's government can't censor you, but there's also a societal contract we all agree on. Okay, I agree to let you talk. You agree to let me talk. We have a discussion. That's not in the Constitution, but we sit here and we have this agreement. But if everybody sits, if big powers decide, no, you can't say anything anymore, and they all collude to do so, that is censorship. Okay, we can't on one hand say corporations have all this power and they tell everybody what to do and all this other stuff, and then on the other hand, let them do whatever they want and be okay with it.
Well, and that's definitely what we're seeing. I agree that we're seeing with that stuff, like with Kickstarter or YouTube or anything like that. But there is an aspect too where they are allowed to say, if you don't pertain to our messaging, then you don't get to be on our platform.
Then
Yeah, I agree with that.
But
But
they're a
when,
private corporation.
but when
legally
all
they're
of the
allowed to
all
do
of
that.
the major platforms are owned by the people with the same messaging, this is where you have a major problem. So
Okay,
if you want to achieve any kind of mainstream success, you have to toe the line
Correct.
on this messaging, and that's just how things are set up.
Okay,
And
but
then you start
prior,
self-censoring, and you start changing the way you do things, and then you eventually sell out, and then are you really that authentic of an artist or whatever at that point? No, you have to give. Every artist has to give a little bit. You have to bend here and there, especially when you're doing corporate work or client work. But if you're trying to move up the ladder, it's a lot more difficult, man.
Perfect example of what we're saying. I'm sorry, Randy. Go
for it. Go for it. You haven't said anything.
Perfect example of what we're talking about. Alex Jones. Alex Jones was systematically deplatformed and deleted from popular culture almost overnight. The only platform that kept him around for, I think it was another month or two, was Twitter. Every platform removed him wholesale. And they try to say that they didn't coordinate that shit.
Absurd.
It was like the same day.
It was almost the same day. It was within.
They did that to Gavin McGinn's too.
They had a meeting on Sunday, and they started deplatforming it on Monday.
Yeah, you can't tell me that when YouTube, Spotify, Stitcher, fucking XYZ, Pinterest, LinkedIn, everything deletes him all in the span of a few days.
Yeah.
That was coordinated. Yeah. And that's an example of, I'm not saying he's an artist per se. He's a performance artist, I guess you could say. He's a character. But that's
the case. There you go. You just proved it. You need art. You need the performance to capture the attention. And when you capture the attention, you deliver the message.
Yes.
My thing,
and that's what needs to they're not going to give you reach to tens of millions of people if they don't feel like they can control your messaging. Is my point. That's not going to happen. Am I saying you can't? It's impossible to reach tens of millions of people without selling out or going to those institutions? No, it is possible, but it's very unlikely. It's very unlikely.
The one to really watch now is Joe Rogan. He just got $100 million deal with Spotify, where he's going to be putting his stuff straight on Spotify. And I noticed the past few months he's lightened up who he's had on for guests.
Is he still going to smoke weed on air?
Who knows what he's going to do? They're even starting a video thing for Spotify, which I'm kind of excited about because it might be a good thing to go against YouTube.
Do you know who owns Spotify?
Microsoft, I think.
I thought it was
a Swedish coalition. A Swedish coalition of investors owns it. They're actually on New York Stock Exchange.
Oh my goodness, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's actually gone up.
You look at Joe Rogan. They
will have Spotify videos ghosting him.
He's been pulling his punches, I think, with his frustrations over YouTube because he didn't want to he didn't want to have his line of income taken away from that. But now that he's not on YouTube, I think he is going to
But the question is are they going to give him that freedom to really speak his mind on Spotify? That is the question.
Yeah,
would he have taken the deal? Well, I don't know, 100 million. Supposedly.
I don't know, Joe. Yeah, 100 million would make me shut up real quick.
Yeah.
It's I don't know. Yeah. I don't know, guys. It's so at those top tiers, it's so controlled, and I don't know. And it's like I love, of course, what Comicsgate is doing. And Commie Mark made a comment want to see if I could find it real
About
quick.
capitalism.
Well, yeah, he's always spewing
He's made
shit
a couple
about
good
that.
comments that you should have put up.
This one about Comicsgate has no gates. Only you can gatekeep yourself. Say you are CG and then you are, which I agree with to a certain extent, but it is ultimately up to the fans to decide that.
Well, isn't
They're
that
gonna
very
they're gonna
typical?
make that call over time based on your actions, and
And I would even say that there's a little bit of gatekeeping going on right now if you happen to be a new creator, because there is, War Campaign has come right out and said that they're not going to support or platform. Sorry, not support, but they're not going to platform new creators.
Yeah.
Even, of course, have come out and said that. I mean, that is.
I don't have a problem with that.
Fair enough.
Oh,
I think
do.
I think the top tier
I have a huge problem with
platforms, when somebody makes it onto a top tier platform, I shouldn't, as a fan, when they reach to that onto that platform, there shouldn't even be a question like, are they going to fulfill? Do they actually know what they're doing? Are they actually Comicsgate? Like, those questions should have already been answered by that point.
Here's the thing. It's not that those questions shouldn't be asked. It's that previously those questions weren't asked. And
I understand, but sometimes you have to learn from mistakes and evolve.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I'll be honest, as a first-time creator with a comic book that's in the works but not coming out, I'm not upset about this. And if Ethan doesn't like my comic, which I'm not going to be surprised he doesn't want to promote it, it doesn't break my heart.
Yeah.
I'm not going to pull a pocket pussy and make hate videos.
No.
There's going to be people who like it, and there's going to be people that don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't think the response to, first of all, I don't think anyone has to be obligated to platform anything in any way, shape, or form. But the message of I don't platform new creators creates two really big problems. One of them is that new creators now have to build an audience outside of Comicsgate.
I don't agree with that.
No.
Okay, well,
No, because not all of the platforms are going to say that. Okay, there are so many channels that are blooming, that are growing. I'm doing my best to build this platform, and I will platform new creators. And a lot of channels out there will platform new creators. So they have to work. It's like climbing a ladder, You got to get that first project out there, do the best you can, make as much as you can, platform where you can, show that you can do it, build a track record that, builds trust with the fan base and shows the people on the higher platforms, look, this person isn't messing around. They're going to get the job done. Then they're going to feel confident to have you on their platform, and you just climb up that ladder,
Who built Ethan's YouTube channel?
Who built it?
Obviously, I did. I mean,
Ethan.
that's pretty clear at this point.
Obviously, Ethan did it.
He did. I mean, granted, he had a professional career as a pretty prestigious DC artist, but I've talked to many people who had no fucking idea who he was before they came to Comic Artist Pro Secrets and watched a video about Kathleen Kennedy or Brie Larson. He put out daily videos, sometimes 2 a day, for a year, and did drawing streams that were, like Testify would say, like watching paint dry. You know what I mean? Like,
yes.
Let's be honest. I mean, watch some of Ethan's early videos. They were boring as shit. He didn't find his voice. He wasn't able to harness that person that he was at conventions with the keyboard where everybody's laughing while he's playing a song that he just wrote. He transported that into YouTube, and through persistence and constant seeding of ideas and his opinion, creating these quirks, creating these tropes, this little pen or his pencil pointing at his iPad, his finger flipping his, this better not be porn. All these little things built into the way he delivers his message, built the fan base that is parallel to his comic book career. He did the legwork. Now he has a platform, and everyone is capable of doing that.
Yeah, and I think asking people...
I actually disagree with that. Not everybody is capable of doing it.
Well, fair. Not everybody can draw like passion for drawing.
Well, Ethan is a unique person. He was a unique person at a certain time and place. He's he has a great career behind it. That he has his 25 plus years. Comic book industry's worked on some of the biggest, comic book storylines in DC of all time. He's been in that community for a very long time. He knows a lot of people. He knew Zach. He knew everything else, and he took that and he made it in. Plus, he has a performance type of personality, because if you look at his old videos where he's at cons doing those songs,
that's what I was
referencing. He had no problem to go up there and do that at a con. Most artists would not do that. Most comic artists would nowhere near that. They're all introverts.
Another example,
to apply Ethan's situation to everyone in Comicsgate, every creator in Comicsgate, I think is a little tough. Yeah.
Okay.
No, of course.
If he's unique that way, that's like saying everybody should be like Robin Williams. One should be more like Robin Williams. Well, Robin Williams was Robin Williams.
No, I agree with you. I agree with that. But that's the market at work. That's your potential. Your potential for earning is directly tied to what you bring to the table. Do you have charisma? Do you have mediocre art skills but great charisma? Do you not have any art skills at all, like a Raging Golden Eagle, but you put out these videos that people love? Do you build a rabid fan base from that? I completely agree with you. Not everyone is going to rise to the same heights. That's egalitarian, meritocracy. That's meritocracy is what I'm talking about, right? And comic is the ultimate form of meritocracy. And so everybody has to do what they can to network with one another. If you don't have charisma, but yet one of your good buddies has a good channel and you're really good friends with him, he brings you on all the time, you can then build your fan base that way. It's all about networking. It's all about getting your face and name out there as much as you can. Do what you can. And I made an example of Rob Willis. If you've ever seen Rob on the stream, he's very humble. He's pretty quiet. He's not overly charismatic, but his art speaks for itself. He's a different case, right?
Yeah.
I would consider him probably top 5 comic book artists in the world right now. You know what I mean?
Kind of hard to argue with.
Pretty hard to argue.
So I think
that's his art doing the advertising for him.
I think the key is you have to really be able to look at yourself, pick out your strengths, understand your weaknesses. You got to play to the strengths that you have, try to improve them, get better at what you're doing. And if Wooster makes a great point here, build a network, work with people that maybe where you have a weakness, they have a strength. Build it out. How important is it to you to succeed, to build a platform? If you can't do something, find a way to make it appealing for someone who can do that thing to work with you. There's a way to do it.
One thing to kind of keep in mind, like we've been talking negatively about gatekeeping. Now, I personally, like I said, I don't think, I don't like the message behind not platforming new creators. But aside from that, not everybody gets to have a participation trophy, right?
Right.
It can't be where you just kind of walk in and you say, hey, I am Comicsgate and I'm building a project, therefore, I should at least be able to be platformed somewhere. You do have to, like you're saying, you have to figure out where your strengths are and kind of play to that. Not everybody gets to be a creator of their own IP, right? Someone's position might be on someone else's book, and we all have creative ideas. This is a bathtub full of artists, and that just means that there isn't necessarily going to be room for everybody to do everything, right?
Yeah.
So the positive side of gatekeeping is that you can look at the substance of the person, and first of all, make sure that they're not going to hurt your audience. They're not going to hurt your business. Secondly, you look at the substance of their art. Are they competent? There's a difference between style and competency in art. And I can tell it instantly when I look at someone's piece of art. I'll know if they're not competent. But everyone else looks at it and says, "Oh, that's his style." No, when you draw in a style, you still maintain a very firm structure in that world. J. Scott Campbell versus Jim Lee versus John Byrne versus Neil Adams versus Al Williamson versus Alex Raymond. Well, all those styles are different, Frank Miller. All the styles are different. They still maintain a competency of structure.
Yeah, yeah.
But when you look
Yeah.
at someone's artwork, it looks like it's in a style, but you look at the heads and they're in an orthographic point of view, or when you look at their perspective, and it's in rudimentary 1 point perspective. They have a long way to go. And are you going to expose that to your audience?
Some people
No.
do it.
I mean, that whether somebody's art is competent or good, good. That's again, this is something the fans decide. That's something. But I mean, I understand. Like, if you're on a platform and you only want to promote something that you truly feel is up to some kind of standard, or, again, creators have their platform and they have every right to choose who they want to promote or not promote. And I also wanted to say, like, I think if you're going to try and come into Comicsgate, you need, have realistic expectations. It's going to take you a year to really build a platform of any kind of respectability, to earn trust with everyone involved, to have a presence, to build a presence
year
in
if
this
you're
thing.
lucky.
It's going to be a year.
A
And
year
if you're
you're
looking
lucky.
at this thinking you can go up, I can just show up and a month later, everyone's going to be having me on their shows and it's all going to be great. Even if you have the talent, that expectation is unrealistic. You got to know that it's going to take a year, maybe more, to get there, and just go into it with that mentality. It'll save you a lot of heartache.
Yeah, maybe the word platform, we need to kind of redefine that in a way. Like, when people think platform, they think YouTube only.
Right.
But you got someone like Scotsman and myself. We're both on Twitch. We've been on there for a while. We've been, it's not huge platforms, but we got our own little area over there.
That's great.
That's not the only place. And then you got someone like Vinny or Phil Diaz, Diaz brothers. They're, Phil's everywhere, and he's building his platform his way. His channel's not super huge, but there isn't a channel that guy hasn't been on. He's out there just promoting the hell out of everything. Same thing with Vinny. Vinny's out there Vinny put out 5 books in a year. He grinded.
He's a madman.
Vinny and
Yeah,
Phil
we
are
did.
great guests too. They're great guests. They're knowledgeable. They got a lot of opinions and good things to add to conversations. So they're great guests.
And you get that by being on more shows. Because I remember when Phil first came in, he was really shy. He didn't do much. I've been on shows with him early on. He was really quiet. Same thing with Vinny. Vinny was kind of shy, didn't do much. But then these guys are on more and more shows. You will build up. Someone will give you at least a little bit of a shot. And you build it from there.
For sure. Maybe rather than platform, I think Scotsman may have got me into using this term, but a presence. You have to have, build your Comicsgate presence, and that could be in any number of ways. It can be on any platform, any manner of contribution to the thing, but you have to build a presence to the point where the network at large, or the community, a lot of people, community is one of those words that people get like, it's a little off-putting sometimes, but you want people to know, like, if you go
community
around
is a diversity buzzword.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, I don't like using it either. It's just sometimes it's hard to find a replacement word. But I think
talk about Comicsgate.
Having a presence is important, and it's going to take a year for you to have a legitimate, strong presence, and people can look back on that Twitter history or that YouTube history or that Twitch, the stuff you've been putting out, and get a kind of a big picture of what you're about. It's really important.
And it's not just necessarily about you being there and interacting, but I mean, it is the quality of your interaction with the community. There's this idea that if you're not on board with what everyone else is doing and you're interacting with them in a confrontational way, it doesn't matter how much exposure you're getting, they're not going to end up wanting to back your book. Right. So it's interesting because we're talking about gatekeeping. And it's just like, well, there's a natural gatekeeping that takes place just by how people want to interact with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And that all comes down to the customers. Customers decide who they're going to back, what they're going to do with their money. That's, I mean, if the customers don't like something I say, like on this stream, for example, they may be like, well, I'm not going to back that guy's book. It's just that's something that you can only control so far. You know, you can try to act as humble as you can and be thankful and do the right things, but once in a while, you know what? There's going to be situations and people are like, what? This guy's a great asshole. And
right.
There's
And
a certain Red
it's
Robin
hard.
I never go to anymore because they forget my fucking ranch every time I order it.
Oh, sorry to
that is
disrupt,
a crime.
but
That is a crime.
Not Said Bot and Kami Mark both make good points about the chat being a powerful tool.
Yes.
I agree. Absolutely. And that's the first entry point, I think, for a lot of people is like you start engaging the chat, having a good time. You know, maybe some of your comments are so good they start getting leveraged by the panel, by the shows to start whole new discussions. I mean, it's a great way to contribute.
Yeah, that's how I started from an artist perspective. I started out in Comicsgate, where I was War Campaign fan. Used to watch me comments as far back as Zach videos and early Ethan videos were in there, you know, having fun in the chats because they were smaller back then. And then I did fan art for War Campaign and other people's stuff, and people noticed who I was. Then I got brought on to shows, and it just snowballed from there.
And similar to Sim, same with Simon.
Yep, Simon was the same way, and
Really cool.
a lot of other artists are the same way. And then now, it's almost 3 years later, I have so much work to do now. I'm booked up for the next year. So
That's fantastic. Like that's a Comicsgate success story right there.
Yeah,
It's not just about having your own book out, but the fact that you can build up your image and personal brand to the point where you are, you know, you're stocked.
Yeah.
And
that's an American dream right there.
Yeah.
it
Another
took me a
instance-
couple years to do that. It took time, a lot of frustrating times. Every time I went through the Doug stuff, the Mike stuff, everything.
Yeah.
Very frustrating to go through all that stuff for the first 2 years.
When you feel
But-
like everything is burning down around you, you're like, fuck, how am I going to do this?
Exactly, and it's
Viable?
even recently it was like that too. But you got to have faith. You got to keep with it. You can't spurg out. You can't, you know, try to go after everybody, or even don't start yelling at the chat. I've seen big people start yelling at the chat.
Yeah, we've all seen
That's
that.
definitely a no. Don't ever do
Yeah.
that.
Well, a great
Yeah,
example
you're not big
to
enough
talk
to-
about too is like Gat. Gat doesn't fight with anybody on Twitter ever. He's a success
I
story of
disagree.
Comicsgate.
I fight
Hold
with
on
him
one
every
sec,
time.
one sec.
Okay.
He came from the chat in War Campaign. He wrote a book. Someone else drew it. You know, Donald drew it. You know, Jason colored it. Eric lettered it, and now it's out there, right? He came from the chat, and now he's a creator, and he's getting rave reviews about his writing. He doesn't fight with people, right?
Yeah.
That's more inspiring to me than, and I love him to death, but Dan Fraga. I love Dan. His story is not inspiring to me. He should be doing what he's doing.
Right.
He should be marketing to us. He should be making entertaining content. He should be marketing his personality. He's already an entertainer. He's already a pro with a big career. To me, Gat is more inspiring than Dan. I love Dan's content, but
Yeah.
his story
I get what you're saying. Yeah.
is
Yeah, 100%.
infinitely more important to Comicsgate than another pro coming over here. You
It
know,
shows what's possible. It shows what's
Exactly.
possible. Yeah,
Exactly.
for sure.
Do good work. Shut your fucking mouth. Get to work. Produce your product. Get it out on time. Be passionate about it. Show people what you're doing. You know, talk about. I just shipped 1,000 pounds of books. You know, do it, and you can achieve some level of success. You know, they cleared $100,000.
Yeah.
Their
Well,
first
and-
project out the gate.
Again, it's play to your strengths. Like Gat, I mean, there's a success story where he played to his strengths. You know, he came up with a story, a concept, an idea. He pitched it here. He indicated he wanted to, you know, jump into the creator end of Comicsgate, and initially he got turned down. Right, like he was talking to the War Campaign crew, and he's just like, I think I want to do this, and no one kind of got on board with it. And then a little bit later on, he was kind of working on the project. You know, he did a little bit of artwork for it, and then he repitched it to Roe, and Roe was like, "Damn, man, like let's get behind this now, right?" Like he saw it, and Roe.
Nice.
I mean, Roe isn't exactly the comic book guy that he's not the comic book nerd that a lot of the other people are, but he saw the potential in it because of Gat playing to his strengths, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. A lot of people come in and throwing these ideas around and know nothing to back it up. Or I've been approached probably 6-7 times to do things, but no one really had any. It was all talk. And then, you know, I'm doing Grave Robbers with Mark Middleton, and he's like, no, I'm serious. I want to do this. And he has a plan and all this other stuff. Raging Golden Eagle, too, I'm doing something for. And he obviously had a plan. He had a platform and all that stuff. So if you're going to do something, be serious. If you want to attract talent to your book or whatever you're going to do, you need to be serious about it like Gad was.
I back the tentacle titty version. Don't call me a pervert.
Hail. Oh, and
guys.
don't act too entitled or thirsty. I see Twitter posts of whining about not getting enough likes, and it gets annoying.
Avoid that kind of thing at all costs. You just gotta, if what you're doing isn't working and you've given it a legit enough time, you know, figure out how to do it better. Find another way, you know. But yeah, getting desperate or getting bent out of shape because you don't feel you're getting the right level of attention. Yeah, that's a guaranteed instant hate factory coming your way.
Just to address what Wooster said in the chat, don't forget Steve Dye, real editors, pre-press guys, really important too. Yes, completely agree with that. It wasn't just Gat, you know, obviously the war campaign guys in their, you know, structure, their leadership structure, all unified together around this idea. But one can't argue that, you know, the writing is the lifeblood of the story. The art is the visual thing that gets people inspired and you know, interest, whets the appetite because you can see it before you can read it, you know. So, you know, and then Steve, all the hard work and editing and organizing the process and all that other stuff that needs to go into it. The 1,100 steps it takes to make a comic book, all those guys together. You know, Gat hand mailed those out himself, hand packed.
Beautiful.
You know, they didn't use fulfillment. You know what I'm saying? So hail those guys. Yeah.
I got my copy just the other day. Got my beautiful copy of Vestige in my hand.
Oh, you got the black and white version.
This is rare, man. This might be the only black and white in existence right here. Guys, this has been going over an hour and a half. I literally have to run and take care of some other stuff. Okay, this is a conversation. This has been a great conversation. I think we should, you know, keep going with it at a later time.
Yeah, anytime.
Also, can I do some shilling for Doom?
Absolutely. I'm gonna make the rounds and let everybody do that.
Right. I'll shut up.
Well, let's just start with you, man. You're already going. Let's do it.
Okay, you're the man of the hour. Let's go.
Yeah.
Definitely check out Doom Fate. I'm hopefully finishing up the inks next week, and then it's all colors and letters from there on in, and the book gets printed. So we're really close to getting things done. So please back shortly. Tomorrow, I will be removing the get drawn into the book tier. Okay, because I got to finish the art up. So that's your last chance. If that's something you've been looking at, please go do that. Soon we're at 8,600 ish, so we're really close to 5 figures. So please check out the book.
Nice.
If you like sword and sorcery stuff, if you like Dungeons and Dragons, Conan the Barbarian, Berserk, that kind of stuff. Check out.
And I dropped the link to the campaign.
The most important selling point: big giant titties.
They're in there too.
They're in there.
Their giant titties is probably accurate.
With
bigger than the titties I draw.
Giant titties, giants. That's in the book. So you'll be a feast for the eyes. Let's say.
Nice. So and I got that. I dropped that link in the chat for everyone. So.
Thank you very much, and thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
No, I really enjoyed having you here. I appreciate it. Let's Scotsman, man. What do you got for us?
Follow my YouTube channel, Scotsman TV, YouTube, Twitter. Take a look at Xenotype if you haven't. I color multiple times per week. If you want to see it happen live, tune into that channel. And yeah, back it if you
And a link to the Xenotype campaign is in the description below.
appreciate you.
If you guys want to hit that. Smiling Bandito, anything you want to shout out?
Yeah, I mean, feel free to follow me on Twitter. I'm going to be putting out a comic book later this year. I got the artist from, he did all the Star Wars Dark Horse back in the 90s. And, and the, he's going to be starting that book in June. And so we're kind of starting to talk a little bit more about it.
Fantastic, man. Get that email sign up going as early as you can with some preview art,
Yeah, as soon as we can.
Cool. George.
Just go to georgepetergatsis.com. It's all there. Click on the Joe King button, get your book, issue 1, or click on the big graphics and sign up for the for book 2, which will be actually sooner than I thought, because the mail system is actually working now. I sent the last of the packages out this morning. So I will be within maybe 1 or 2 weeks. I'll be 100% fulfilled instead of 95% fulfilled. And
beautiful.
And
man.
also, if you can find me on YouTube, I'm 99,980 subs away from 100K.
Yeah, I know the feeling, my friend. No, you weren't too much of a punching bag today. That was an unfair assessment. Come on.
George is a good punching bag.
I thank you for holding back.
Next time, we'll get you next time. Gargoyle, is there anything you want to shout out?
Twitter, Justin Collark 3X, Instagram, Al Gargoyle. YouTube, Al Gargoyle. Got draw streams. Anybody's more than welcome to come in, show off the drawings, show off what they're doing.
All right.
Anyways, that's about it.
Nice. Hail the chat. Thank you guys for being here. You guys had a lot to contribute to the discussion today. Really appreciate that.
Especially Testify.
Yeah. Always, every time, every day, that guy is here just being supportive and adding to the topic of conversation. Incredible.
Best yawn, verbally and in the chat in Comicsgate, hands down.
If you haven't subbed to the channel, I would appreciate that as well. And we will see you tomorrow.
Hail the chat. Thanks, guys.